Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome to Watch This Now. Chances are if you clicked on this title then you're in the mood for a laugh, and I consider it my job to weed through this Netflix algorithm BS and find you the best streaming options. So here are my top 10 best hidden comedy gems that you can find currently streaming on Netflix. At number 10 I have Take Me Home Tonight. This is a party comedy set in the late 80s where Topher Grace plays a slacker home from college. He's realizing he doesn't have anything going on with his life, but he bumps into the girl that got away, his crush from high school, who invites him to a party where all of the high school friends are gonna be, and he has his chance to try and make it with his crush since he never did back in the day. This is one of those fun comedies that takes place over the course of one night, mostly at the one location of the party. You got a bunch of crazy random characters doing all kinds of funky stuff all over the place. It's got that rockin' 80s soundtrack, everyone looks goofy. This movie came out way too early for the 80s nostalgia boom, but you know what? It is such a fun little comedy gem. I highly recommend you give this one a shot. At number 9, I have She's Out of My League, a romantic comedy starring Jay Baruchel and Alice Eve. And this is a funny one where Baruchel is basically, you know, the loser nerdy type who ends up meeting this beautiful, gorgeous 10 and he's a 5, and that's the joke of the movie, that he really shouldn't be able to get this kind of girl, but she's into him anyway. And while that sounds almost like Shallow Hallie in a way on a basic level, this is one of those legitimate romantic comedies that not only focuses on the comedy, which makes this a pretty funny flick, mixing those good jokes with the situational comedy. I always like that.
You're not supposed to be on your phone. It's bad for the plane.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you a plane doctor? No? So shut the hell up.
But this has genuine heart, and I like the relationship explored here, and it totally rises above your typical Jennifer Lopez, Kate Hudson kind of romantic comedy. At number 8, I have Goon, a sports comedy. This one stars Seann William Scott as a bouncer, who, he's the nicest guy, but he's really good at kicking ass. He's got, like, knuckles of steel, and he just beats the living crap out of people. So a hockey team notices him, and they're like, hey, we need you on this hockey team. And he's like, I don't know how to play hockey. But he figures out how to ice skate enough to be able to beat up the opposing teams that his hockey team goes up against. I'm not really a sports comedy guy. This isn't usually my thing, but Seann William Scott is really quite funny in this film, and it's another one. Actually, Jay Baruchel is in this one too. But this is a funny one that, again, it really mixes the funny jokes with the situational comedy. I love the main character. He, like, doesn't want to beat up people, but it's kind of the one skill that he uses to his advantage. So it's a funny setup, and it's executed really well. At number 7, I have The First Wives Club. This is a girls' night 90s staple of a movie. It stars Bette Midler, Diane Keaton, and Goldie Hawn as women who have all been wronged by their ultra-rich ex-husbands who have left them for younger women, and so they devise a plan to try and steal a bunch of money from them. It is a fun little comedy that is loaded with screen legends. At number 6, I have Obvious Child. This is like a romantic comedy, a slacker comedy. It's a fun comedy. It stars Jenny Slate as a comedian in New York City who's kind of just floating through life. She's kind of a girl child. She isn't really taking care of herself properly. She's approaching 30 a little too fast, and she's not prepared. And she ends up, after a one-night stand, finding herself pregnant, and it really just throws her for a loop, and she has to sort of learn to grow up and become her best self as she's exploring a relationship with, you know, the guy who knocked her up. It's a really cute little movie. At number 5, I have The Little Hours, and this is just one of my favorites of the 2010s that no one talks about. This is based on, I think, some Italian short story, I don't know, but it really just takes the basis of that story and then turns it into a farce. This movie is so ridiculous. It's set in like the 1600s in Italy or something at a convent, where Aubrey Plaza, Alison Brie, and Kate Micucci play nuns who end up meeting Dave Franco, a man who was thrown out of this estate he was a servant at because he, you know, was sleeping with the wife and whatnot. And so he ends up at this convent, and like all of the ladies are kind of on him. He's kind of trying to play them all. They're doing a whole bunch of wild stuff. It's nuns dropping F-bombs and just being extremely rude to people. It is very irreverent.
It's the longest list I've ever had. Apostasy, abusive language, heresy, revelings, eating blood. Do you think I've ever written down eating blood before?
Again, one no one talks about, but everyone should be. At number 4, I have Our Idiot Brother. This is such a great Paul Rudd movie. I think this is the best Paul Rudd movie. He plays the ultimate slacker. He's the nicest guy, but he keeps getting himself into trouble. After getting a drug charge for being an idiot, he's kind of on probation, and he has to get his life together. He has to find a stable home, and so he ends up having his 3 sisters, played by Emily Mortimer, Zooey Deschanel, and Elizabeth Banks. They're all trying to take care of him and get him together, and he's just the idiot brother. But again, he has a heart of gold. He's such a sweetheart that, and of course he's Paul Rudd. Like, this is the perfect Paul Rudd role. If you haven't seen this and you're a Paul Rudd fan, you are missing out. This is one of his best. At number 3, I have the 80s comedy classic Ferris Bueller's Day Off, starring Matthew Broderick as the titular Ferris, who is the ultimate teenager we all wish we were. He has the plan for everything. He's like Megamind. He is super smart, but not in the way that he probably should be using his smarts. Instead, he uses his skills to scheme his way in and out of anything. And in this movie, he is scheming his way out of going to school. This is one I think we can all relate to, just needing a day off. This is Personal Health Day, the movie. It is so funny. There are so many great fun sequences. Not only are we with Ferris as he runs around with his friends, going to Chicago and having a great day, but we also have his sister, played by Jennifer Grey, who is the cynic. She is so pissed about everything, and she's going through her day as well. It's such a fun movie. It's one of those John Hughes films that isn't completely offensive 30 plus years later. I haven't watched it in a minute, actually. I'm sure there's some stuff in there. At number 2, I have one of my favorite horror comedies ever. And trust me, if you're not a horror fan, this one will still do it for you. At number 2, I have Tucker and Dale versus Evil. This is such a funny movie. You know the story. A group of college students, they go to a cabin in the woods for a weekend of partying, but some crazy rednecks come out of nowhere and they start slaughtering them. Well, this take follows the rednecks, Tucker and Dale, as they are trying to go through just a simple weekend out in the woods until they are disturbed by some hard-partying college students who are total a-holes, and through a series of ridiculous events, the young folks start to die one by one in all of these brutal, grisly accidents that they get themselves into. But they believe Tucker and Dale are responsible for it. It's so funny. It pretty much flips the script on the slasher film. It's really funny. Who we think are supposed to be the villains are our main characters, and then who look like the original victims, they're kind of the antagonists. It's so funny, it's pretty short, it's brief, it's quite heartfelt as well, but it's just hilarious. Every time, this is a really rewatchable film, so I'm really glad it's on Netflix. You're going to want to watch this over and over again. And at number 1, I have The Edge of 17. This is a coming-of-age comedy about a young girl played by Haley Steinfeld, who is pretty much a loner. She has her one good friend, but she isn't really into hanging out with people. She's kind of a bitch, but likably so, until her friend sort of strays away. I won't give away what happens there, but our main character kind of finds herself alone, and she kind of learns how to grow up and everything. This is such a good teen comedy. I really like this. We got some really good teen comedies from the 2010s, from Lady Bird to 8th Grade. This one fits right in there with those. I think this is one that people slept on, but Steinfeld is so good in this movie, and it just plays out so much better. I remember when this was marketed, I just thought it looked stupid, but it's really one of the best coming-of-age comedies that we've seen since the 80s. Well, that's my list, you guys. What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your favorites? And what are you watching on Netflix? Thank you so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to watch this now, and I'll see you in my next video.